Today's conversation is about what happens on the other side of the submission button. Every writer knows the feeling of sending work into a journal and waiting, sometimes hopefully, sometimes nervously, sometimes already preparing for rejection. But behind every literary journal is not just a slush pie. There is taste, vision, community disagreement, scheduling, editing, advocacy, and a real attempt to create a home for certain kinds of work. Our guest today is Ralph Pennel. He has lived inside that world for years as the founding editor, fiction editor, and editor-in-chief of Midway Journal. Midway has this beautiful, fragrant-inspired identity, a place where different voices, styles, forms, and energies collide and converge. So today we're talking about editing, submissions, rejection, literary community, and what creative writers can learn from thinking like both a writer and an editor. Welcome to the podcast, Ralph.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me. It's good to be here.
Yeah, you're welcome. I'm really glad we're doing the interview. You described the genre Midway as the fragrant energy around it. Before I even go about asking the questions, what exactly is fairground? When I see the word fair, first thing I think of is fairy.
Oh, okay. So there's a thing in many like U.S. states. There's a state fair. We won't talk about the current state fair, but the in Minnesota there's an annual state fair that draws people in from all over the state, from northernest regions to the southernest regions, and the state fair is in a region of the Twin Cities, which is St. Paul, Minnesota, that's known as the Midway. And so that's partly where the name of the journal is born from. And so the state fair, there's rides, there's food booths, there's bands, there's a seed art exhibit, there's a butter queen sculpture. So just it goes on for several days, maybe even a week. I haven't been in a while, but it's meant to be fun. It's meant to like expose you to different experiences that you might not get in your normal day-to-day experience. And in Minnesota, it's kind of special. Like, again, a lot of states have state fairs, but Minnesota State Fair is kind of special. They refer to it as the Great Minnesota Get Together, very affectionately. Like it's a very fun event, and you go with no airs, right? Everybody's there. And there's famous Minnesotan politicians there. Like I saw Al Franken there, talked to him once. And I know that Tim Walz was just there in the past. I mean, I'm sure he goes every year. But, they have live music, like big bands, like real bands come.
Yeah.
R.E.M. was there one year. They're in it. You just sit and enjoy yourself, and like you watch people, and it's a great melting pot. It's a great experience, and nobody is like judging anyone else. Like you're just there to experience everything and try everything and have fun. And so when we were putting the journal together, one of the things that we were interested in doing is trying to capture that energy, and partly because of our own aesthetics and our own styles and writing, but also because it spoke also to our ideas about being non-binary and just boundary crossing with literature and not being beholden to certain styles or genres. And so just the best way to sort of open that up and make it as clear as possible was to sort of align ourselves with the mission of the state fair. Yeah. And so again, the Midway was the name comes from a sort of a multitude of places. So not only is that area of St. Paul known as the Midway, but it's also like the midway point of like where the two cities touch, like St. Paul and
Midway.
Yeah. And then the Midway is also the part of the state fair where the rides are, which is why our logo is a Ferris wheel. So we're sort of milking the whole Midway thing to its fullest degree. And just for fun, we decided that we publish 4 issues a year, and we publish on the 15th of the month instead of the 1st to get, midway through the month, just to get a little bit more.
Wow. You guys went all the way.
We did. Yeah.
All the way. Wow. I'm curious, if Midway Journal were an actual booth at the Great Minnesota Get Together, what would people be lining up?
That is a great question. And the funny thing is, like, we actually wanted initially, and it was just too difficult to do at the time. We could probably do it now just because of the progress that like these website building platforms have progressed. But when we started out back in 2006, everything was HTML, and our web guru had to like download and upload everything using HTML.
Yeah.
So like everything was coded. But what we wanted to do was like for the different genres is have like each one be like a booth, and you could click on it and have that experience. Like it
Yeah.
was the fun house experience. Maybe one was the food court experience. It was just we couldn't do it at that time. We could do it now if we wanted to, but
Yeah.
so that's a great question, because it was actually something we were considering when we were before the journal even launched. Like, what if we did this? So as far, I guess maybe if you were at a state fair, I guess maybe I would have to say it would either kind of a combination between the Midway where all the rides are, right, and then maybe the where the seed art is housed. And so if you don't know what seed art is, it's kind of a big deal at the state fair. So artists will make portraits with different like corn, dried corn and seed and grain. And some of these pictures they make are like, they're like either copies of original pieces of art or their own original pieces of art. And some of these are so good. Like there's one just got accepted into a national museum. I want to say it's the MoMA. I could be wrong about that, but these artists take this work very seriously. But it's so random if you're not from the Midwest. Like if you just walked in there, like all these pieces of art hanging on, and they're juried, right? They get voted on. There's a prize. They take it very seriously. So I think if you could combine those two experiences into one, that would be what Midway is, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And now that because you said that in the past you thought about doing it digitally, but it was a lot of hassle, but now it can be done. So should we be expecting something like that?
Maybe.
Okay. That would be
Yeah,
nice.
and I think about that a lot, actually. It's like it's we would have to redo. It would be easier to do, but we would have to redo how we format the journal. And again, it would be a lot easier just because it wouldn't have to be done in HTML. We
Yeah.
could prefabricated platform and go that route. Maybe. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Midway's not going anywhere for a long time.
Yeah.
So like there's years ahead to think about that, and maybe we will. Maybe
Yeah.
that's my maybe.
That would be lovely because
Yeah.
because it will become a genre that isn't in the boundary. Because as you said,
Yeah.
I'm using your own words. It's
Yeah.
different. It's a whole different experience.
Mm-hmm.
What are one of the things that's common about literary magazines out there,
Mm-hmm.
it's that it's literary magazines. It's a bunch of text, which is great. I love text. I love to read. But there's multimedia, there's voices, there's people reading poems, there's people performing poems. There's all these things that's all part of the literature. But usually when we talk about literature, it's just if it's not a bunch of words on paper, it doesn't count. Do you guys have a plan and intention for creating an immersive experience around?
Yeah, because it's online, right? We have the capabilities of publishing pieces that get sent to us that don't function as like literature on the page. And so just to give and we don't get them every issue, but
Oh,
just to give an idea, like for our very, 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 very first issue, this got sent to us as a CD, as a disc that somebody burned and sent it to us in the mail. This guy made a video poem that he called palm reading, and he wrote words on his hand and then held his hand up to different signs to change the meaning of them.
oh,
That was the poem, just him walking around like changing the meaning of these signs. And so that was in our very first issue, right? So this video, no explanation.
what year was this?
Wait, 2006. Yeah,
Wow,
or
the
might have been
good old
2000,
days.
but yeah.
Now it's so much easier.
Yeah. And we've had issues where somebody they didn't send us text. The short story was just a audio recording. And so he sent us an audio file and it was this whole production. Like he had contracted somebody to create a soundtrack for it. Yeah, it was a really nice piece of work and a really nice piece of fiction. And we do publish art. Sometimes the art has moving components to it, like there's a video component to it, or there's voiceover. We don't have this for every single issue. It would be nice to have that for every single issue, but the capability is there. And when we get it, we try to accept it. we can't accept everything, but when the opportunity is there, we definitely want to promote that kind of work. Because it's because it's online, like the opportunity to do that is there. And so, why not take advantage of it? But it also promotes things that we talk about being important to us as editors and as a journal.
Yeah. Do you guys intentionally ask for it?
Sometimes, yeah. If we go, enough issues where somebody hasn't sent us anything that does something like that, we'll seek it out. Or if I see it online, like if somebody has something and I come across it and I know we're probably not on their radar, I'll reach out to them and like, hey, this is really cool. You should send us something. I was actually in conversation with an artist recently about their visual art and hoping that comes to fruition. And so, yeah, we're always interested in pulling that kind of text. I want to use that word text versus literature because it's really what we're interested in, right? And text could be anything. Text could be a video. Text could be someone singing. And so we want to pull those texts into the experience of Midway, not just for us, but for our readers and our audience and our viewers, because we attract a certain kind of reader. We get a wide swath of readers and authors who submit to us, but the people who return over and over again, like the artists who send us work over and over again, and the authors who send us work over and over again, right? They understand that we have a certain kind of aesthetic and that their aesthetic aligns with things that we're interested in publishing. And so, we're definitely interested in anyone producing that kind of art who is interested in sharing it through the platform that we can provide. Yeah. So anytime it gets sent to us, we're definitely advocates and we want to promote it for sure.
That's lovely. Usually in this section of the movie, there will be this visual effect where the we transform into I. You've been talking about we since the beginning of the conversation, representing Midway Journal. I want to look at Ralph Pennel.
Okay.
A guy called Ralph Pennel. And the question I ask is, I introduce you as the editor of Midway Journal, but how do you see yourself? Do you see yourself as an editor or poet or writer?
Yeah. The question, the answer is yeah. And so obviously my grad work is as a writer, right? I didn't go into graduate school to be a multimedia editor, although I did. This is also part of the background of the journal. So all four founding editors, we all worked on the literary magazine Waterstone, which is a fantastic literary journal published out of University where we all went to school. We weren't all in the same cohort, but we were all there at the same time. And we all lived in Midway area, right? And so we lived close to each other. But we all worked on that journal at some point during our time at Hamlin, and we knew we wanted to extend that experience. And so I'll get back to talking about myself in a second.
Okay.
And we knew we wanted to extend that, right? We didn't want to duplicate it, right? We didn't want to just make like
copycat,
Waterstone, and Waterstone, etc.
Patsu.
Yeah. And so when we sat down and we're like, what do we do? What are we doing? And so we're like, what if because this was 2006, right? And there were only a handful of online journals at the time. And so what if we make this online? Like, what if our mission is to only be online, fully online, never have a print iteration of this journal? Like, what does that mean? How do we break down some of the barriers in publishing around online publishing? Because at the time, and there's still some people who don't hold it in the same regard as print, as paper, right? But at the time, there was a lot of contention, and so we wanted to open that conversation up. We wanted to be sort of at the forefront of breaking those walls, and it would have happened eventually anyway, right? Because everything's online now. We all spend so much time online now. Like, it was going to happen anyway, but we wanted it to start then. We wanted that conversation to start then and be part of it and be pioneers in that way and be first adapters in that way. And it was a great experience. It was fun. Just to give you an idea, like, there were so few online literary journals. Like, there's an annual conference, AWP. I'm not sure if you're aware of it, but there's between 10 and 14,000 participants. Yeah, it's huge. And it rotates cities around the country.
What does AWP stand for?
It actually stands for Association of Writers and Writing Programs.
Oh, wow.
It's only AWP because originally when it was first started, it was developed for graduate students. So it was Association of Writing Programs. But then they opened it up to include professional authors and like mainstream high profile literary journals as well. And so it became Association of Writers and Writing Work Programs. But they didn't add the other W, because then it was like AW, right? Versus AWP. And so they kept the
Yeah.
same acronym. People didn't have to is this the same thing? Right. But that's what it stands for. So it's just AWP, and it's annual, and it rotates around the country. It's in major metropolitan cities. It was just in Baltimore. And the year before that, I believe it was Philadelphia, no, LA. Yeah, I'm mixing up the years. I haven't been in.
Yeah.
Next year it's going to be Chicago. That much I do know.
Okay.
But yeah, it took me all over the country, because when I first started going, it was back in 2009. So it took me to Chicago, and this is one of the reasons. Like, I would pick which cities, because cities I'd never been to before. I've been to Chicago. I grew up near Chicago, but like, it took me to Baltimore, took me to LA, took me to Portland, Oregon, took me to where were the other? I guess it was in Chicago. It was in Boston, but I was living in Boston at the time. But yeah, so I tried to choose major cities I'd never been to before to follow it in those places. So it got me to do a lot of traveling, which was great. But yeah, and so it's this big event, big thousands of people. And so the first year after we started the journal that we went, the drama editor, we used to publish drama, we don't do it anymore. We went to AWP, and people knew who we were already, just because of the novelty of online publishing at the time. There were so few girls doing it that we didn't even have to introduce ourselves. People just saw our tags and were like, "Wait, you're?" I'm like, "Yeah." I'm like, so it started all these interesting conversations. Of course, now everybody does online, right? And so it's not as big a deal, but at the time it was. Yeah, it's interesting to see how important that transition was at the time. And as far as, circling back to your original question, again, I didn't, when I entered graduate school, this was not why I entered graduate school. There's specific programs at specific schools for that. And even though the Hamlin is known for the Waterstone and being in a top tier literary journal, and I knew I wanted to be an editor on that, I didn't have plans to transition into this other thing, other entity with these other people, because I didn't know them yet, right? So my goal was, to publish, to be a writer, and to publish and write poetry, which is my primary genre. That's what I ended up focusing on while I was at Hamlin. But one of the great things about Hamlin's program is not only is it interdisciplinary, where you can take classes from other programs that cross over, but they encourage you. I say this without knowing if they still do this, actually. I'm assuming they still do this, because why would you program? But they encourage you to take other genres, right? Figure out, some programs you have to know what genre you are going to be in.
Yeah.
When you get there. And it's so I took fiction class. I took a nonfiction class. I never thought I would take a nonfiction class. It was actually one of the most important classes I took, I think. And there for a while, I was like, "Oh, am I going to be fiction? Am I going to be poetry?" But then I realized that it should be poetry. My undergrad focus was in poetry, but I've been writing fiction and poetry for a long time, both. And I don't write as much nonfiction. It just doesn't come naturally to me. It's not my first thing. And so my goal was always to write, to publish individual pieces and books, and so the journal was just sort of a nice complement to that. And once we got started, I knew I was hooked. I know I want to do this for a long time. And the other editors really only wanted to do it for 5 years. And most journals really only last, well, at the time, I think that's different now because of online publishing, but a lot of times journals had a 5-year lifespan, and then they would sort of disappear.
Yeah.
But yeah, Midway's now in its 20th year.
Oh.
And and I'm the only founding editor who's still there. Everybody else is.
That's
Yeah.
well done.
Everybody else went and did their own thing, which two of them are getting tenure, and then the nonfiction editor went out to California and just stopped doing literature and is doing other things. And so we all we're all in touch. We all keep in touch and visit each other and all that kind of stuff. But yeah,
I'm curious. Usually most literary journals, they go out of business because of money. So how's Midway being able to stay afloat?
Yeah. So in the beginning, a lot of it was out of pocket, and wasn't that concerned about creating revenue, and it was cheap enough. We were operating cheaply enough that to pay it out of pocket wasn't really a big deal. But as the journal started to grow, and as things changed within the industry, so the biggest deal was Submittable, which is a tool platform that people use to submit their poetry. fiction. It used to be free. And I'm not trying to
For the magazines, right?
for anyone, yeah, for everybody. Like you could submit for free. There was a small fee if you were running a journal. Like there was a small fee, but even if you were small enough, it was free, right? And so everything, like everybody could do it for free. That is no longer true, right? And yeah, and so that changed the landscape of online publishing really quickly when they started charging for everything. And so we lost, like a lot of journals stopped because it's like, well, we can't afford this. We're not really here making money. And if you're not housed in an academic institution where they'll set aside money for something like this and work it into the programs, the English programs or humanities programs, or if you're not funded by grants, then you know, there's different ways to level the playing field a little bit. And so, you know, the cost of everything goes up. So we have to think about like, well, what does that mean? And we run contests. We need to have a tip jar option for submissions. We'll always have free submissions though. It's not something we'll undo. Because you know, it's internet should be free, but we do provide tip jar options. And we've sold merchandise in the past. I'm actually going to bring that back. It went well. Like everyone loved the designs that we use. And so we sold t-shirts, we sold over the shoulder bags, and we're going to bring that back. I've been in conversation with a vendor, someone who can do it like so meets our aesthetic. She works out of Pittsburgh. So I'm really excited about like working with her. Just need to pull the trigger on that really.
A lot of things you need to pull the trigger on.
Yeah. You know, it costs money. You gotta have money up front to do it. You know, all the money that we make in the journal really just goes back into operating costs and paying back the winners of the contest, paying the editors who do the work and all that stuff. So yeah.
You mentioned that for a while it was out of pocket.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming that currently it's 20 years now. So currently it's no longer out of pocket. Where is the money actually coming from? Like if you could just give me 25% is this, 75% is 80% is this, because a lot of people have the intention to start a literary magazine. And I believe there's a lot of lessons to be learned from someone who's been running a literary magazine for 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
That's a long time.
That is a good question. So we recently also started offering editing services. And so a good deal of our revenue comes from editing services. And the other thing about working through Submittable is they take a percentage of every single sale. Yeah, they take 99 cents plus, I think 5% or 1%. I forget what the exact percentage is, but 99 cents plus, right? And so, you know, if you're only charging $3 for a tip jar submission, $1 something out of that actually. Yeah. So it doesn't add up very fast at all. So you know, the contests are a good revenue draw, but again, a lot of that money goes to paying the judges and because we pay our judges and to paying the winners, right? And so all that money sort of feeds itself. But the editing, and that's one of the reasons why we added the editing. First of all, it's like I do that on my own outside of working on Midway. Like I do that privately as well. Like I help people with their manuscripts. I was like, well, I can extend that service through Midway as well. And you know, a lot of times a lot of people we don't really advertise it, but like we get sent submissions every month for editing services. Sometimes multiple times a month, usually multiple times a month. But like and varying. We have different pay rates. Right, you can send us X number of pages for X amount of money, that sort of thing. And we have several people who are using our services regularly. There's several authors who have sent us multiple submissions, and so that's. And I don't know the percentage, like the breakdown. I know we're not making. It's not about.
Is it up to 50% for the editing services?
I don't know. So why this money is significant compared to the other money, like with the contest. So the thing that brings in the most is probably over the entire year is probably one of our contests, the 1,000 Below contest. But most of that money also just goes right back out the door.
Because they're paying the
winner, right? Yeah, and then pay the editors to read. So that even though we don't make as much money doing the editing, that money stays in the journal. Like 7% of that stays in the journal. So that ends up being more lucrative, right? And so it's the service that we can offer to anyone who's interested in it. And so even though it's not like our biggest money maker, we keep a larger percentage of that to pay off bills, right? Because we have to pay the web people and everything else to stay online. Like everything just gets more expensive. We're set up through GoDaddy. They're our web host, and they just every year, like the cost of their services goes up. Yeah, it's like just when I think we're gonna we're gonna make just a little bit more money this year, it's like nope, there it goes. Yeah, and so the margin between like profit and expenditures is usually pretty slim after everybody gets paid. And so, and again, I'm not like in this to get rich, but I also don't want to work from a position of debt, right? And so any profit margin we can make any single year is a blessing. And but yeah, those are our biggest ones, the 1,000 Below contest, and then the editing services, again, just because we get to keep most of that to do various things with it. And then the tip jar brings in money, but like again, it's that disappears really quickly just because they take such a big percentage of it. And I know that there's a lot of journals out there who are charging like $7 for a submission, and it's like, which seems outlandish. But then again, they're probably, they're keeping like $5 of that. That's not, it seems like a lot, but after Submittable takes their share of it, it really limits, right? And really dwindles that down. And it's like, they should probably, journals who are doing that probably should think about their operating costs and like where their money is coming from if they have to charge that much, because it seems like a little bit much. And I know people.
What about ads?
What's that?
What about ads, advertisements?
I'm actually in the process of reaching out to people. And again, I'm not going to like make it impossible for like people to keep up with the advertising costs. Like do something really minimal, but like make it so people want to keep advertising with us, right?
Yeah.
And this was actually something I went through the whole thing, got build up specs, advertising specs. We had it posted on the old website right before we changed it because it's no longer HTML. We had a contract. I had vendors picked out. And then this was in 2008, right? Right. And then the recession, right? In the US. And so nobody was spending money on advertising. And so all of this work he had done just bottomed out. But again, because, the cost of everything keeps going up, and it's nice to have just a little bit of extra revenue at the end to grow the journal with, right? To do these extra things, provide these extra services that don't end up, hurting the journal at all. Like that is a thing that I'm bringing back. And again, I'm not going to like be exorbitant about the cost. I want to try to keep it, in a place where it's good for the vendor. They get the advertising through us, right? Put their product. And that's the thing too. It's like, I'm looking at vendors who may not have the same audience, right? Because now we can bring them to a whole new audience. Like they may not even have an online presence. And so we can provide that for them. Because where I live right now, a lot of people, it's weird. A lot of people don't have websites.
Oh, wow.
For their businesses. And so they like rely on like Instagram and Facebook to be their website, which I think is an odd thing. Like
just as a way of suggestion though, if you were to do something like that, it of course the brands will align. That's a very straightforward thing. But if you were to pick up a brand, they could partner with you in the 1,000 context, and then they would have, this is sponsored and supported by this, and they would support in the prizes, things like that to help reduce the budget. And then if you sponsor a partner with them, it's not just the website. I mean, it could also be the newsletter, talk about them. It could also be the Instagram. And if you guys do have a podcast, that will also be lovely.
We do have a podcast. We have only posted one of our episodes yet.
What happened?
That's just a matter of time. Like
you guys need help. I could help with that. No, I've been, one of my dreams is to work with a literary magazine. Like, okay. And that will also be free exposure for me. So
sure.
Yeah, I'm just selling myself.
Talk afterward.
Okay, of course.
About that. Yeah. It's like, again, it's one of those things. It's like, we have a certain operating budget, and it sort of keeps us from like, bringing too many people into the fold. Again, because like with Submittable, it charges like how many editors you have who can use it. Like you can have different packages. And so, I
think the goal is to, how do we bypass the middleman?
Yeah.
Give me the money directly, put it in my hand.
Exactly. Like that's the goal.
Yeah.
Like, that's the dream. Like how do we operate without Submittable? And I don't know what the
Yeah,
answer
and
is.
and that's the sweet thing about the ads and the sponsorship is
Hmm.
usually
Hmm.
once it's aligned, they do the first try, they can partner with you for 6 months,
Hmm.
1 year, and you just have that money and you're just doing
Yeah.
your thing rather than trying to say, okay, yeah, and yeah,
Yeah.
it's a
And
lovely idea.
right, those were the packages we were thinking about. Like we would do the smallest one would be like a 3-month package, and
Yeah,
then we'd have a
then
6-month
you,
package, and then a 1-year package.
yeah,
And yeah, and
yeah,
like just auto renew if they wanted to, if they were happy with the services, or we could just like go year to year, re-sign a new contract. And
yeah,
but yeah, that's the goal. And the first thing I'm going to do is bring back the merch and the
okay,
t-shirts. And yeah, it was funny because like I was working with a guy and he did all these demos for us and they were all fantastic. And he just really got the product and he got what we were doing. He
okay,
just nailed it. And then by process of elimination, I sort of figured out like what color combination that our people were drawn to the most.
yeah,
It surprised me. I was not prepared, but they were the clear favorites. And so now like those are the only two I'm actually going to focus on. So like going into it the second time, like I have a very, very clear picture about what to do, how to, and like what will sell and what people will be interested in. Yeah. So it'd be a very different experience the next time around. And I was supposed to buy the merch from this
so many things that you're supposed to do. What's
in
the
June,
list
but
is
it
so
didn't
long.
happen. It's going to happen next month. It just got pushed
Okay.
back a month. Yeah. And
Yeah.
so, yeah,
Currently it's next month for me. It's July for me now. So I think you're still in June. Yeah.
yes, tomorrow's July. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm in tomorrow now. So
Yes, you
yeah, you
are.
have a lot of catch up to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, this is, this is really lovely.
Mhm.
The reason I am excited and chatting with you for Midway Journal, it's, you've been in business. Okay. I wouldn't really say business, but you've been in the publishing game for 20 years.
Mhm. 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 Yes, I've read a lot of submissions.
20 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can only imagine like if that was a child, 20 years,
Yeah.
that's a grown man or grown woman.
Right. Right. They
You get,
halfway through their college career at this.
yeah. Some of them already working, probably have a kid or so, depending on where you're calling from
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
situation in place. And this also comes in handy because the audience, people who've been with Midway Journal since 2006, that's a level of trust that
Mhm.
I, as a guy, cannot just show up on the internet and say, "Da, da, 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 da," and
Mhm.
do that depth of trust. And yeah,
Mhm.
people want to, I think it's all about partnership, not
Yeah.
necessarily how do we get people to sponsor, how do we get people to pay us money. It's more about, what do we have and what does these other people have and how can we come together and create something amazing. People want to give back to the community.
Yeah.
People want to create projects. People want to work on things.
Mhm.
And this is literature. People want to change culture. And, probably the platform could sponsor a podcast that
Mhm.
Midway Channel could work on. So
Yeah. Yeah.
that's really amazing because I always see everybody's, and I get the budget, it's not easy, put time and money
Mhm.
wise to run a magazine.
Mhm.
But then I'm like, this is amazing. Why just I have a theory and you can correct me if I'm wrong. And I'm really glad I remember this because I've been meaning
Mhm.
to ask an editor.
Sure.
I feel like most of the readers of literary magazines are writers who want to submit or who submit their works. Like I feel like the section of people who are just readers, how you
Mhm.
read a book and not necessarily write,
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
feel like that number is not so big. I have no data to support this. It's just a speculation, a feeling. And
Mhm.
yeah. What do you think
Yeah.
about that?
I think you're right. No, I think that's a fair assessment. I think most of the people who do spend time reading literary journals are the people trying to get in them, right? And the authors who are interested in
Yeah.
sort of placing their work. But there definitely are, and this usually, so my experience, the ones that I know about are the extensions of the authors, right? So the authors share their work with their friends who might not necessarily be authors, right? And you can sort of pick up like in the comments when they post
Yeah.
online which ones are authors, which ones are not. But they read, right? And they'll read, first of all, they'll read their friends' work and comment on it on their social media. And then they'll also read other work. And then I've also had to realize that sometimes those friends start following Midway on Facebook or start following Midway
Yeah.
on Instagram. And sometimes they're writers, sometimes they aren't. And so I really appreciate those followers, the ones who aren't authors, the ones who aren't trying to get into the journal, but are invested enough in their friend's success that it led them to the journal, and they liked what they saw across the board, not just with their friend. And now they're following the journal. Now they're spending and commenting, right? And yeah, that to me, I think is probably the greatest testament to the value of the work that we publish and the work that we've been doing is those readers, like those who only know about the journal because their friend got published in it, and then they liked it enough to invest more time in future issues as well, too, right? And I wish I knew the percentage of. There's no way to know, right? There's no way to know who, right? But I mean, I guess I could go through like thousands and thousands of followers on social media and like look at their bios and see who's who, but nobody has that kind of time. But yeah, those are those followers I value so much, right? It's just they don't have to be there, but they are, right?
Yeah, a magazine like Midway Journal is publishing amazing works of poetry and flash fiction, and I feel like this stories is just so good that it shouldn't just be like it's like I feel like it has so much potential. It could reach so much people and touch them, and like a book turning into a movie and into a concept and you see now the story has lived into we're all talking about boundary. That's why I'm talking about this, and we're like no more boundaries, but it's a story. It could change someone's life. They watch the movie and like, oh wow, I really love that, and they go read the book and they go. And because it's a literary magazine, the commitment is way different from what I call it now, from a book. Because if you're like, oh, check this new book, it's amazing. And I see the page, I see the spine, I'm like, nah. I was like, nah, not interested. But then if it's a literary magazine, the poems, the short stories, usually the things that, just a single piece can maybe 20, 30 minutes for a long short story. But for a poem, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and people can really get value from it. Maybe curated pieces and all that, curated pieces of the curated pieces, and really, and this will also mean amazing thing for the writers, and it'll also bring in new audiences to them. I'm just talking a lot.
Yeah, that's one of the things, and that has changed a little bit about the journal, partly because of the platform has shifted too. So when we first started, like I mentioned, everything was HTML. So that really limited the number of pieces that we published in an issue. And so when we moved away from that platform to the
what are you currently using?
What's that?
What are you currently using? Are you using WordPress?
Yeah, we're using WordPress.
Okay.
So that means we can publish more, right?
Yeah.
First, it's not a problem to put all that material up on the website, but like viewers can come and spend as much or as little time as they want, right? Just like you said, it's not a book. They can read one poem and come back a week later because the journal is going to be up for 3 months.
Yeah.
They can read one story, right? And so they can just spend as much time as they want. They don't lose anything if they don't read the journal in one sitting. And it's there, it's not going anywhere. And then we put it into the back issues too. So if they don't get a chance to read the whole thing, they can always go back and find it in the back issues and find it there and revisit it and reread it. And it's one of the values of online publishing versus like print publishing. It's like, you have the journal. If you buy it, you have it. But at the same time, like if you don't have the back issue, you haven't bought every single issue, right? You're not going to find it because it's going to go out of print, right? And it's not going to be around. Or maybe you can contact the school if it's affiliated with the school, and they might have a back issue in the warehouse there. But for online publishing,
since you talk about print, have you thought about selling print copies of the you do 4 issues in a year? Have you thought about, because I think there's a new fancy term currently that's trending. That's a print on demand, where you make an arrangement with a printing company. You do the designs, give them everything, and when someone places an order, they print it and they ship it to the person.
Yeah, we toyed around with the idea of like doing a best of. Sorry, cat.
I see we have another guest. Someone has an opinion.
Yeah, we toyed around the idea of doing like a best of print issue.
Okay.
And it comes up every once in a while. It's still not right? We may do it one day. And there is a publisher in this area that I'm actually really interested in working with. It's a woman-owned press, and they do things fairly cheaply. It's not as inexpensive as like a print on demand option, but it would be nice to give that money to the community, like give money to that and that organization and support the work that they do. And I've looked into the cost of that. It wouldn't be prohibitive, and wouldn't
Prohibitive. Wow,
yeah.
I've never heard that word used in this context.
Yeah, it wouldn't diminish the
Yes.
work, like the revenue for other areas.
Yeah.
It would. And I feel like we've been in business so long now, and business is okay to use because we're not a .org, we're a .com.
Yeah.
And that was the decision we made at the very beginning too, which sometimes I kind of regret because
No, I mean,
just because the grant money is all for
Ooh.
nonprofits, right? We actually can't apply for any of the grant money, which in retrospect is like, that would be nice to be able to do. The journal, like if we did a print version, I know it would sell because we've published so many different authors at this point.
Yeah.
And like whatever money we put into to a print issue, and again, the goal wouldn't be like to like get rich off of it, but like whatever money we put into a print issue, we could make back really easily. Even if we had to print like 1,000 copies, I doubt they'd make us print that many, but I feel like we've published so many different authors at this point, and we have so many different followers at this point.
And people can pre-order. So you do the design, you show people the design digitally and say it will be launched so and so time, place an order, and that way you see, okay, 200 people have placed an order. I think we should not print 1,000 copies. Let's just stick to 300. Rather than just printing and then you have it in your, it's in the warehouse and it's like, we need someone to buy, come buy.
Yeah. And the other thing about doing it that way too is like, I could choose the art, right? I could choose work with a local artist, promise them, pay them, but at the same time, like I can give you like this kind of exposure because not only is it going to be in these spaces, but we're also going to promote it online. Like you have our audience now, right? And so, it's something. It's not as immediate as the merchandise, and it's not as immediate as the advertising, but it is a thing that comes up every once in a while. And so I think because I've actually sought out a publisher to work with, a printer to work with, I guess I should say printer, that it's more than just a conversation at this point. It's an actual pursuit, but it's third in line behind these other things that we'll do.
Long line.
I try to do a new thing every year. So probably we'll get the t-shirts and the merch. We'll get that up this year.
And
no problem.
I just want to be clear on something. What's the core 3 factor that you use to say, okay, great idea, but nah, not now. Great. So that's like kind of like, a system or framework you use. Because I'm thinking, because so far what you've been saying, revenue is part of, the things you look at. But then like, what are the things you look at? Say, okay, it's a great idea. It's awesome, but in the future we'll do it. But not now.
Yeah, usually it's cost. Like, can we afford to do it right now? And the other thing is too, so things that you've brought up, things that you've mentioned, like advertising, it's low lift once you get the clients, because then it just pays for itself, right? It feeds itself. Like the money just comes in.
Yeah, you're already doing what you're doing.
More labor on our part, right? So putting together an anthology, that's more labor, right? And so we're formatting, we're putting it together. It requires more time of all of us to do that versus like initially selling an ad space and then the money just comes in, or buying the t-shirts from the vendor and then the money just comes in when people buy it, right? And so our workload up front is a lot, but then it kind of works itself out. But with the journal, like with an anthology, that's a lot. That's way more work up front. And so we have to take like the cost of the time and the labor and the product. So that all factors in. It's like, that's why like that might get deprioritized over these other things that I've been thinking about doing anyway. And so it's like, get that money coming in, right? And then it's going to free us up to do something like that where we don't have to worry about putting the money up front to pay for the X number of issues that we would, or X number of copies of that anthology that we would publish. And so, and it's a fair question, and it just comes down, like, here's the thing that I never thought I would ever be when I started all of this. I never thought I would be a small business owner, right? Like, how did that be who I am. And so I'd like find myself making these decisions about like, prioritizing projects based on cost and resources. And yeah. And so it's been an interesting part of the whole experience to navigate and grow and learn more about and learn about taxes. And yeah, I know more
Yeah.
about tax than I want to know about. Yeah.
Yeah, this is really lovely. I mean,
Mhm.
it's good you've been saying to it, because whether we like it or not, having money allows people to, usually most literary magazines, it's a side
Mhm.
thing, something
Mhm.
they're doing all the time, and they're doing the main thing to, like, their full-time stuff. But there are people who, they are out there in the world and all they want to do is just geek out about literary magazines.
Mhm.
And, being able to say, okay, yeah, we can, compensate you for, doing this. They're like, oh, wow, this is awesome. I'm living the life. This is my dream. And, there are a lot of people like that. And that way they can show up, do the work, and bless you. And the magazine can just keep running. Plus, you get to
Mhm.
do amazing work. It's not just a magazine. I mean, there's a mission, there's a bigger goal. Yeah.
Mhm.
It's not just we publish. It's more
Right.
like we want to expose writers and stories to people, and you know yeah, and there's a whole lot of work to do, but surviving
Mhm.
for 20 years has been a
Yeah.
lot of work.
Yeah.
So congrats on that.
Thank you. Yeah, and we've built some great relationships with authors who routinely publish with us, and it's always nice to see their work in the queue. And yeah, we've built a lot of like literary friendships and literary partnerships, and yeah, it's been just a blessing. Like that's why we're in 20 years, right? That's why it keeps going. It's like, there's always the sort of the myth of the disgruntled, overworked, underpaid literary
Yeah,
journal. But honestly, like there's moments where I'm like, I don't have time to do anything. But those are short lived, and everything is like, yes, I love reading the literature. I love finding works by authors I've never heard of before, and just like falling in love with their work and being able to publish that and bring that to our audience. And then like finding that author who's never yet published a piece, and then they send us something that just, it's magical, and like we
wow.
can't not have it. And then that author is like, thank you. They're always so grateful for the experience. And even if it's like their 100th or 200th publication, they're still always grateful. And yeah, that part of the business, that part of publishing will never get old. It will never diminish. And like that,
Yeah,
it keeps me coming back. Yeah.
yeah, and the older the magazine gets, the more the repetition. And
Hmm.
then, yeah, because once in a while you just want to show people your work
Hmm.
and have it
Yeah.
have it come from someone else other than you that said, oh yeah, this work is good.
Exactly, right. It's like it's been vetted. Somebody approved.
Yeah, yeah, and they know my mom, and they know my dad, they
Mhm.
know my sister. Because mom will always say, "Ah, my son is the Shakespeare of our time. He's an amazing writer." Shout
Right.
out to all moms out there.
Yeah, moms are great
Yeah,
audiences.
moms are great. Yeah. Well, this has been a lovely conversation. Just as a final question, as we
Sure,
close the episode,
sure.
what's in the frontier for Midway?
Mm. Well, the merch, obviously, and
Yeah,
the possible anthology, like print anthology that people can hold.
yeah,
Um, we're gonna, we're due for an update, right? The website's getting kind of old, so we're due for an
yeah,
update. But in terms of like, we would love to just to continue to grow
yeah,
our audience, but then also like grow the things that we do and offer more services and just provide a bigger platform for our authors, right? And that's really our goal. Is like, what can we do for our authors? We promote online, we do all these other things, but what else can we do, right? And so one of the things that I'm also going to do, and this is kind of low lift, and it doesn't cost anything. So like I used to run a reading series at the KGB bar in New York, Midway meets Manhattan. But then COVID kind of killed that. And so one of the things I've been thinking about doing is doing an online reading, like doing maybe once a year, and sort of a best of, like invite certain
yeah,
authors to perform and read, and just have this one annual celebratory reading. Again, that will be easy to do because it won't cost us anything to do. And
yeah. Online,
but
virtual.
it's something I've been thinking about, and I think that's a thing that will happen if I
Yeah.
don't pull the trigger on it this year, because I would want to do it after issue 4 comes out, so we've
Okay.
published an entire year. So sometime between October 15th and January 1st, right? So we could there's still time to pull that off at this point.
Yeah.
We don't do it this year. We'll absolutely 100% do it next year, but I kind of want to do it this year too. So,
Oh, wow. That would be
yeah,
lovely.
yeah,
Well, I'll
yeah,
talk to you about that
yeah,
after
yeah.
we end the episode.
We should talk
Yeah.
about, we
Okay.
should talk about our Substack, right? We have a Substack, and
Yeah.
it's kind of young and it's kind of new. And that's the other thing too. We want to grow our Substack, right? We want to grow what we do on Substack. We want to provide more podcasts. We want to provide more arts, news, and
Yeah.
and so that's another thing too that we want to grow and spend more time with that for sure, 100%.
Lovely. Where can listeners
Yeah.
learn more about learn more about your writings, and also check out Midway Journal?
Oh, well, there's my webpage, which is just ralphpennel.com. You can find out more about me. I've got a list of publications there. And with Midway, obviously, we're on Facebook, we're on
Yeah.
Instagram, we're on LinkedIn, we're also on Threads, so you can find us in all those spaces. And like I said, we have a Substack now, and we've mostly been posting like news things,
Okay.
but we're going to bring more podcasts and a newsletter and author features and pieces, like just like craft pieces by authors. So that's all coming. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, that would be lovely. I'll put the links in the description so listeners can click
Yeah,
and go there to the site. Thank you, Ralph,
yeah. Thank
for
you.
sharing the Midway Journal story.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. This is great.
You're welcome. Thank you for listening to BuildWriting. If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe wherever you get your podcast, and share it with a friend who loves poetry and creative writing. Leave us a quick review or rating. It really helps others find the show. You can also connect with me, and I'd love for you to subscribe to the newsletter. He's saying all the behind the scenes things I'm experimenting on and things I'm working on in terms of creative writing. Yeah, it'll mean a lot to me. And I shared the writing prompts, behind the scenes, speaks, and more. Yeah, a lot of things. And if you have any questions or ideas, feel free to reach out to me, and I'll be sure to respond. Love to hear from you. Next week, we'll be diving into something really, really amazing. And you have to tune in next week to find out what that will be. Until next time, keep writing, keep building your craft. See you next time.